Elephant is part of one of the largest auto insurance companies in the world with operations in 7 countries. But we only have one hometown, Richmond. Thank you, Richmond. We're proud to be one of your fastest growing employers. More care, less cost. That's the Elephant difference.
Well, the biggest thing that stands out when you watch them or when you look at their statistics is just how good they are defensively. I mean, they're one of the better teams in the country, not just the conference, in terms of the way they defend people in the half court. And they also extend their defense and are very aggressive in the full court as well. Coach Hurley's done a terrific job of assembling a really, really good roster and guys that fit him, guys that have a level of toughness and physicality. That's who he is as a coach. That's who he wants his team to be, and they've really made a lot of strides in a short time since he got there.
Last year, watching them, they seemed like they had a lot of youth and a lot of athleticism they hadn't quite put together. And I guess that's what you're talking about, is they've really come together and turned some of that youth into steady production. Is that accurate? It is.
They have a young player named E.C. Matthews, who's a sophomore, who is probably the most explosive, electric player in the Atlantic 10. Just really, really talented young man who I think has a very, very bright future in the game of basketball. And then with him, they have a lot of other really athletic, aggressive players. Hassan Martin, who starts for them at the power forward spot, I would say is has the best combination of anyone in our conference of power and athleticism. Just some thunderous dunks and great plays around the basket, blocks a lot of shots. Their starting center, Baruda, is really not a 5-man. He handles the ball. In fact, they used him last year to bring the ball up against the press. And he's very, very skilled, a very good driver, good passer. Then they have a lot of perimeter guys that can step up and make plays, attack off the dribble, and also make shots.
Long little stretch on the road here, Coach. Is there any talk of kind of this little phase of the season we're on the road as much, or just make you appreciate home that much more?
Well, to be honest, I know it sounds like a coach, but we just take one game at a time. So we're not really focusing on the stretch of road games so much as we are focusing on the Rhode Island game. And we had a good practice session yesterday, starting to focus on them. Then we practiced today. Today's our first day of school, so guys kind of need to get back in that mode. And we'll practice today and hopefully put some deposits in the bank, and then put our best foot forward with that game. Then after Rhode Island game, obviously we'll focus on what's next.
Where do you draw the line between patting your guys on the back because they've won 8 in a row and they've seemed to have some momentum, and keeping them hungry, kind of maybe reminding them of that last loss the further away you get from it?
We just focus on the process, to be honest with you. We don't dwell a whole lot on the last wins or the last loss. I mean, I think there's specific things that we can point to, that we can learn from in winning or in losing, but the process stays the same that goes into winning. We have a formula on the road that we try to follow. When we follow it, we've been relatively successful. But it's not easy to follow on the road because there's a lot of things that get in the way. Just look at what happened this weekend to some of the elite teams in the country on the road. There's a reason in college basketball, I think more so than any other sport, any other level, home teams have such an advantage.
Coach, how pleased are you with the team's focus during the stretch of the guys being on Christmas break and students not being here and having their focus solely on the games at hand?
It's been really good. I think the focus has been very good for our guys every year during the winter break. I remember as a player, it's just a unique time, and really was my favorite time. As much as you are a student athlete, but it's nice that month or so where, let's be honest, you get to sleep a little bit more. You get to relax a little bit more, and you're not as much on the move, but you get to focus even more on your game and on basketball, and I think our guys have done a good job with that.
Coach, are you happy the way the young guys are coming along defensively? I know that there's no ceiling, you're always trying to improve, but are you happy the way that Terry and Tillman and even Doug are coming along?
They're making progress. I mean, each guy, you can kind of group them together and say they're making progress, but I think each guy is a unique situation. We have 6 freshmen and 6 first or second year guys. Jordan and Mo are sophomores as well, but I kind of count them with the older guys because they're a little bit further along and they're in the starting lineup. But of those 6 guys, it's the 4 freshmen and Jaquan and Doug. I think overall those guys have made some big strides. They've made a lot of strides in practice. It hasn't fully carried over to the game yet. That's how it works. It doesn't always come all the time when you want it to. They just have to stay focused on that. Jeremy Ballard and David Cason have done a really good job. They take the 4 freshmen after every practice, and they do extra defensive work, and sometimes they pull Jaquan and Doug with them. It could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but the guys have had a really good attitude about that. It'd be really easy, it's human nature, just to be like, well, we're done with practice, I want to be done. But they've had a very good attitude, and I think it's helped. Hopefully, again, those can be deposits that we put in the bank that later on we can make some withdrawals.
You had a stretch of playing a few games in a row here at the Senior Center. What's the message now to your team now at the start of a 3-game stretch on the road beginning tomorrow night?
Well, again, we're not really focused on the 3-game stretch. We're focused on Rhode Island, and the stretch is that, or the emphasis is that we have to follow our plan on the road, and there certainly is more adversity most of the time in road games. Rhode Island is a terrific program and very, very good team. So, you don't want to overthink yourself as a coach or as a player. You're playing a really good team, so you're going to have to play very good basketball, and all the little details that go into that, particularly on the defensive end, because that's the end that you have more control over.
Coach, you talked earlier in the season about area of emphasis being making reads on offense. And if it's different, how is your process different in terms of that? And what are you guys doing differently to make better reads?
Well, we show them after each game. That's the biggest thing. It's just been more of a point of emphasis. The process isn't any different. The reads aren't any different than they've ever been. But after every game, we show our guys. For instance, the St. Joe's game, I believe he shot 52% from 3, so it was a good 3-point shooting day. But our shooting percentage from 2 was in the 30s. So overall, I think we're 42 or so percent. And the reason that our shooting percentage was lower from 2 is because we took too many bad 2s. We forced some shots that just didn't make sense to shoot. If it's the end of the shot clock, that's a different situation. Obviously, you got to get the ball up on the rim when the shot clock's winding down. But if there's time still on the shot clock and you drive in the lane and you don't have an angle or you don't have a good shot, then you need to pass the ball. And that's something that we've emphasized much, much more this year. I would say overall we've made progress, but again, there's been games such as our last game where there were too many forced 2s, bad 2s.
Was it just looking at the data from last year, because I think you guys were kind of in the lower bottom third of the country in terms of 2-point percentage last year? Was it just kind of looking at the data and deciding, hey, this is an area we need to focus on this year?
Yeah, I mean it was an area we knew we needed to focus on last year, but we didn't. As a coach, as a coaching staff, you can only choose certain things to emphasize. For instance, yesterday, we had to quickly move on to Rhode Island and start preparing for them. But we always like to show some tape of the game before. So if you're going to show your guys 15 video clips, you got to decide what those clips are going to be. Is it rebounding? Is it transition defense? Is it reads and recognition? Is it screening? So we've just decided that's one of our main, on offense, that's one of our main deals is what we call recognition and reads. And so we focus on that after every game.
Are there particular shots in general that you just, there are areas of the floor, there are situations, you just tell guys, these are the kind of shots we want to avoid?
Yes. Well, a lot of times, like if you drive and you don't fully beat your man and you don't have an angle to the rim and you try to shoot a layup, that's a hard, it's a high degree of difficulty shot. There was one that in the second half, Doug shot where he drove left and his man was right there with him. He kind of picked up his dribble and then he jumped and forced it anyway. That's a low percentage shot. We grade every shot that we take on a shot quality basis. It's just something that we created a couple years ago. And so every shot is a 1 through 4, 4 being a great shot, 1 being a bad shot, 2 okay, 3 good. And again, it's somewhat subjective, but we have the same person grade every shot. So hopefully by this point in the year, he's pretty consistent with it. So that shot that Doug took was a 1. And we give our guys shot charts with percentages that they shoot in different areas of the floor, but also on the ones you've taken on the year, the 2s, the 3s, the 4s, here's your percentage, and here's your overall. On 1s, you're 1 for 11 on the year. So you're shooting 9% so obviously that's a shot we want to avoid.
Coach, with Melvin, him breaking out of the shooting slump on Saturday, what did you see during the course of the game, whether it was his form, his reads, that kind of had you pleased with him getting out that slump and maybe kind of carrying over the next couple of games?
Yeah, I think Melvin did a really nice job of just trying to follow the process with his offense. He didn't force too much. I think he had forced a couple plays in the previous few games, and if you watch his shots, he really had good shot discipline, and when he does that, he can make some. He can really get going, and I got no problem with him like pulling up on the break. If he's got an open shot, and it's good to see him get going. Melvin's a guy that he wants to do well and help the team so much. I mean, and that comes from a terrific place. And man, he works so hard at his game. I mean, he's not a guy that isn't willing to put in the work and wants the results. He puts the work in, and so it was nice to see him play well.
What do you guys in particular think have made progress in this area more, or made greater progress in area in terms of making reads? You guys you've been impressed with in that area?
Well, Trey Graham's the best on our team at making reads, and it's actually it's an interesting thing with him because you would think we want Trey to shoot as much as possible. He's our best scorer, and he's shooting a high percentage from 3. You want him to get a lot of shots up, but you also when you make a point to your team about making the right play or making the extra pass when it's the right thing to do. He's the best guy we have, and he's really improved at making those decisions and those reads. So what that can do in certain games is bring his field goal attempt total down. But again, if he's getting someone else a great shot, we'll take that. And then what we try to do as a coaching staff is try to call his number quite a bit where he is going to be in a position where he can drive and make a play. And then guys like Briante do a good job finding him for open shots too. But I would say Trey, Bree, although his 2-point percentage is a little bit lower, so he can keep getting better. Jordan Burgess has made major strides there. If you look at his 2-point percentage, much, much better than it was as a freshman. I think he's forced just less bad 2s. Melvin comes and goes, but he's made some strides. I think all the guys overall have made strides. The ones that don't make strides are, guys that fight the process.
Have you ever been in the middle of a court storming, like happened in Raleigh yesterday?
I think, yeah, we beat Oklahoma here. The fans stormed the court, so that was the last time that we were involved in that.
That was a good one, though. You haven't been on the losing end of the court storm.
Has it happened on the road?
George Mason. That buzzer beater.
Did they storm the court?
The team is. With Trevor, you always talk about how he lets the game come to him, so to speak. Do you at times have to talk to him and almost say, we want you to take over? At times, you just kind of, I won't say passive, but as you mentioned, he allows the game to come to him as opposed to forcing the action towards the defense.
Well, he doesn't fight the game. We have a saying on our coaching staff. There's certain things you can't fight in basketball, and one of them is the game. You can't fight the officials. You can't fight the crowd. There's just certain fights you're not going to win, and we say you can't fight the process. So he does a really good job of taking what the defense gives him. We do make a point of emphasis, though, to your point, for him being aggressive. Really, really aggressive, and he's done a pretty good job of that this year. But again, sometimes he's aggressive, and then the defense really helps on him. And the right thing to do is make a pass, and he's done a nice job with that. The other thing I think he's improving on is, and St. Joe's did this, more and more teams just really sit on his right hand. So I think he's improved with his left-hand drives and left-hand finishes. He had a game about 2-3 games ago where he had 4 baskets going left, and that's major strides for him, because used to be, when he was younger, it was, I'm going right, no matter what you do, I'm going right. So he's made progress with that.
This may go along with following the process for some of the younger guys, but is there a point in the season, in any season, where you can feel that your comfort level kind of rise in terms of trusting the bench a little bit more to give your starters more of a break?
Well, a lot of it just depends on the opponent and the game, and you get a feel the first time you put someone in the game for how into it they are, and just how clear their head is for following the plan. We've been fortunate. I think lately we've been able to play a lot of guys, and again, it starts in practice. Guys having good practices and making those deposits. I think Jared Guest has really made some strides, and you've seen the last couple of games he's played more. I think as long as he continues to make strides in practice, he can do that, because he can kind of bridge the gap a little bit between our older guys and then our bench, because he can come off the bench and provide those guys with some experience. But yeah, I hope we can continue to play a lot of guys. It's a long season, and those guys can give us a lift. The older guys, the starters, they get tired. I mean, they're human beings too, and when you play with a lot of energy and you play the way we do, there can be fatigue. So if someone else can come in the game and the level of play can stay the same or even increase, then that's a good thing.
Have you gotten a sense of this group making a long run, like a long winning streak, like right now it's at 8? Did you get a sense, like maybe Christmas break or sometime at the early part of the season, like, hey, once we get clicking, we got the possibility of really having a really long winning streak?
You try not to think that way as a coach, because you try to focus on the next game. But I really believe in like the rhythm of a season, and we've been here 6 years now, so we have some data to look back at from former years, and we have been able to in early November get going in terms of playing better basketball and making strides, and then we have been able to play relatively well during the winter break of school. But you get into league play, and now it comes down to how well you can put things together on game night, and then obviously it's all relative to your opponent. So it's not really about, we just want to extend the streak by 1. That's really what it's about right now, because you're playing a high-level team on the road. You're tied with them in the standings. They're obviously highly motivated. I'm sure their crowd will be too. So there's a process that we need to follow to put ourselves in the best position to win. I think the next day and a half is just about us communicating that and our guys buying into that.
Now, is the process different from year to year, group to group, or player to player?
Well, there's certain things that don't change. Like playing hard will never change. Being connected and being on the same page, communication will never change. But hopefully, the Breonte Webbers and the Treys and guys that have been around for a while have learned. They know more than they did when they were freshmen and sophomores about what goes into the process. Hopefully as a coaching staff and as a head coach, hopefully I've learned. There's certain phrases I use or things that I talk to the guys about that I didn't really use before that, hopefully give us a little bit of an advantage relative to maybe my first year in coaching. But it still comes down to those key elements: playing hard, playing together, playing smart, taking care of the basketball, contesting outside shots, rebounding. That stuff never changes.
That's good.
Thanks.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Elephant is part of one of the largest auto insurance companies in the world with operations in 7 countries. But we only have one hometown, Richmond. Thank you, Richmond. We're proud to be one of your fastest growing employers. More care, less cost. That's the Elephant difference.